start our meeting today with the message from the book Opening Doors Within from Aileen Kaji. It is not necessary for you to try and work things out in life yourself, or try to pull strings. All you have to do is very quietly and confidently to follow my instructions, which you will receive in the stillness. Some souls will hear my voice distinctly. Others will act intuitively. Some souls will be guided in action. I work in many ways, but all will know when I am in command. For the hallmarks of love and truth will be running through everything. Once I obeyed, you will behold wonder upon wonder take place, and see my hand in everything. You will realize that of yourself you could not bring these wonders about, and that it is indeed I working in you, and you will give me the honor and glory and eternal thanks. Acknowledge at all times where your wisdom, love, and understanding come from, where life itself comes from. I am allness of all, and your life is hid in me. We are one.
Dear Lord, we are here united once again to study your laws. Therefore, we ask at this moment that we, all of us here, can open our hearts and minds for the teachings of today, that we can be able to receive the message, to reflect upon them, and to try to make changes in our lives, to become a better beings, to use our free will accordingly with the God's laws, to be in peace because we are fulfilling our own needs. We are fulfilling our duties. That all of us here today, incarnate and discarnate, can be evolved by your lives, can be evolved by the blessings from the benefactors who are also here with us. And in this way, we ask the permission to open the meeting today. So be it.
Welcome every one of us, ourselves and all of those in the spirit who are also here with us. Grant this possibility for us to carry on our reflections in relation to the study of the Spirit's book, reminding ourselves that the Spirit's book is based on the teachings of the superior and enlightened beings who are bringing their teachings regarding the natural laws of life, where we are all immortal beings created by God with love in order for us to learn to love. So feel welcome, and may we all feel joyful in our hearts for these blessed moments as we carry on our studies as learners of life as we all are. We finished our studies last week on the question 904, wasn't it? 8. Just for us to remind ourselves, the last question that we went through last week was, in such cases, how can we judge a righteous purity of intention and sincerity? If you go through, just to remind ourselves, what was the question about? In such cases, how can we judge a righteous purity of intentions and sincerity? Do we still remember? What comes to our minds? Is it important to understand the intentions of the righteous sincerity, or is it important for us to learn to distinguish if it's good or bad?
And we were talking last week about if it was beneficial for some writers to expose the use of society, and we discussed that it could be beneficial if the purpose is to help us to progress, but it could be not if, for example, the purpose is to gossip and just keep us at the same level of
Correct. So it is for us to, let's say, favor us to stay in the unconscious level, then it's not good. But if it's favoring us to progress and to evolve, yes, it is. And of course, we can question what do we understand about when we say if it favors us to progress and evolve. Could that be seen in different ways? In which ways? In egoistic, selfish way or materialistic way, and in that way we are completely focused here on earth and we are not raising ourselves up. So when we refer to that level is regarding the natural laws of life. Yeah, then we are on the right track. Okay, so let's move on then today on the question 905 of the Spirit's book, which is a quite huge question, isn't it? It says, some authors have published works that are beautiful and morally uplifting, which help the progress of humankind, but which they themselves do not take advantage of as spirits. Will the good they have done through their works be taken into account? Let's explore the question first. What is this question about? How could we reframe it according to our own understandings? In this stage of our own evolution. Of course, later on, we may change our understanding. But now, what is the question about?
I think it's interesting because Kardec in the previous questions was asking the wrong, if someone writes something wrong, if it can be useful for us. And now he's asking if someone writes something good but does not use it for its own self to progress. But it's a good article, and it can be related to the question and to the answer, because the last answer, as you just said, was like, if someone wrote something, can we know about the intentions? Is it good to know about the intentions? And the Spirit says that the importance is not the intention, but if the article, whatever they wrote, is it good or not? And then on top of that, they ask, so if someone wrote something that's really good for everyone, but does not use it for their own self, how does it impact? Because they say, as a spirit, it will do good they have done through their works be taken into account. So it's going to be taken into account the thing good that they did, the good work that they did, even if they don't use it in their own lives.
Okay, anybody else? Is that clear? So let's move on now, exploring the answers that the enlightened spirits are giving to us as learners, as we all are. They start by saying, morally without action is like the seed without the sowing. As we always go through gradually, let's explore the first phrase of this answer. What do we understand about, remember the question? Just read it again. Some authors have published works that are beautiful and morally uplifting, which help the progress of humankind, but which they themselves do not take advantage as spirits. Will the good they have done through their work be taken into account? And then the enlightened spirits start by saying, morally without action is like the seed without the sowing. Let's reflect about the first phrase. What comes to our minds?
I think it's a good understanding or a good lesson for us, because I may be wrong, but in most of at the moment on Earth, we have ideas first, but doesn't necessarily mean to practice all of them.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a state of evolution. I think it might be natural here on Earth. We have many uplifting messages. If we take the Constitution, the Brazilian Constitution, it's very well written, it's beautiful, but doesn't mean everything that is written there is put into practice.
Correct. What else comes to our minds? When we heard, moral without action is like the seed without sowing.
I really like it, the answer, because when you have a seed, you have the proposal to have something after that. And then you're going to plant, and then you're going to have flowers or trees that's going to give you fruits. So it's always the progress of something, and the seeds brings, as we bring the potentiality within, the seeds as well. So they're comparing that process with the morality. So how come you would like to have a morality if you don't put it into action?
So we have three aspects in the phrase, don't we? Which are morality, the seed, and the sowing. Yeah? And the three need to be interconnected. Otherwise, we may have tons of seeds, and the answer is, or the question is, what are we doing with it? Morality without action is like the seed without the sowing. So the seeds, do we have all the seeds?
We do.
What are the seeds?
The God's laws.
God's laws, where are they stored?
Where are they stored?
Yes.
In our conscience.
In our deep consciousness, yes, as immortal beings as we are. Our reflections here are based as immortal beings and not as physical beings. Immortal beings that we have been created by God, simple and ignorant, and we already are learning for centuries and centuries and centuries. Here we are again in new existence on a physical level. So morality without action is the seed without sowing. So the seeds, we all have them. All, not only us here, every creature in the universe, because all of us have been created by God, simple and ignorant, with all the seeds within. What do we understand about the seeds? What are the seeds? We agreed that we have the seeds. We agreed that we carry within. What do we understand about the seeds? What are the seeds? Virtues. Let's imagine that I never heard about it. What do you mean by virtues?
Everything that is, I would say, is everything that is according with God's laws, all the good qualities. But we're talking about vices and
yes, the subtitle is Virtues and Vices.
Virtues and vices, yes. I would say examples would be patience or discernment, which we talk about.
Okay.
Courage.
Okay. The patience, discernment, courage. Which other seeds? Responsibility. Which other? Punctuality. Sincerity. Which others? We have tons and tons of them. Which others? You're not quite familiar yet. Andrea, which others? Hope, faith, love, kindness, fraternity, solidarity, cooperation. What else? Helpful. What else? Huh? Kindness, charity. What else? Patience, obedience, resignation, submission, and so on and so forth. All the values from the self-level onwards, from the essence of each one of us, that we have been created. So morality without action is like the seed without the soul. So we are already reflecting what the seed means to us, and now how do we sow them? We have the seeds. How do we sow the seeds now? Can we see how important it is to reflect on this phrase? So how do we sow the seeds now?
It is through action, through the experiences, a lot of times.
Okay, through actions. And how does it happen?
I think experiences will happen to us, which we are invited to act in a different way. So this is when the process of the development of the virtues happen. And we learn that it's not once or twice. It might be millions of times. So we might take
why not one or twice, which would be so helpful to us? And why not?
I think it's just because it's a natural way of us developing other abilities.
Okay.
It takes time until it becomes, like we said on Monday, until it becomes automatic, the default.
Okay, so do we have already the defaults? Are they based on the vices or on the virtues? Or both? Both. Yes, we have very strong devices, let's say, which are our imperfections or shadows. But we also have already started somewhere the virtues. But quite often they are not all default yet. But as more as we train through our daily basis experiences in choosing to become better today than we were yesterday and tomorrow better than today, then we are, let's say, building or working towards building the default in the virtues. Anything else?
I would say that the sowing process for me nowadays is to do what I need to do, not what I want to do. That means what I seem to set to do differently. Because I'm accustomed to do whatever I want and based on an egoistic mind, on a materialistic mind. And now I need to give me a chance to do differently, but according to God's laws. And most of the time I'm going to do things that I really don't want it.
Mm-hmm. And why is that? If he's according to God's law?
Because I am a rebellious and I can be based on or taking pleasure on things. And most of the time the pleasure is on a sensory way or on the materialistic things.
Can we
so
say
having things keeping things with me.
Can we say that most of the time, if we are loyal to our own duty while on earth, as we promised, as we agreed before coming back, most of the time we will be doing things that we don't like. Why? Because we haven't trained much ourselves in doing good or moving according to God's laws. Most of the time throughout our journey, within centuries and centuries, we always choose to do what we want. As you mentioned, through selfishness, pride, and this personal interest that always took over. And now we are studying, we are becoming aware of the natural laws, and we also becoming aware of interaction within the natural laws. We become aware that each one of us is responsible for their own evolution. Therefore, we freely choose to move and to act according more and more to the natural laws. And in that way, we are developing more the virtues and weakening the vices.
I was thinking, Vanessa, yesterday that my belief systems are based on materialistic, on the matter, on materialistic point of view, and then I need to understand and realize it, be aware of it, and then for that reason, the study is important because when I become aware of it, one of the questions is going to be we're going to touch on it. I will know what I'm doing wrong and I will know what I'm doing right. And then I'll need to put myself in a different way, behave in a different way. And even if I really want it, I'm going to say to myself, no, it's not time for this anymore. It's no longer time to do this, to have this behavior.
So it's almost like learning freely to develop the faculty of freedom that God gave us in order for us to learn to follow His guidance. And that needs to be, we need to learn to position with ourselves in that way. And that will be the development of the free will according to the will of God. And as more as we do it, easier it becomes. And as more as we repeat, more we are conditioning ourselves and freer, therefore we become easier. Easier doesn't mean that we won't face challenges, but easier because we are resisting the resistances of the ego state of mind. Does that make sense? So we reflect about the first phrase. Let's move on now. What use is the seed if you do not make it grow in order to feed you? What is that question referring to us? Carry on the answer of the enlightened beings regarding the question 905. We started by saying morality without action is like the seed without the sowing. Now, what use is the seed if you do not make it grow in order to feed you? What are the spirits, the benefactors referring to? What they are trying to teach us? Any idea? What else comes to us? When they say, what use is the seed if you do not make it grow in order to feed you? What do they mean by feed you? Are they talking about eating?
The seed.
We are resting this.
The seed, the opportunities. The seed are the opportunities in our virtues that we have within ourselves, and we are wasting these opportunities and these values.
Okay, and how do we understand when they say make it grow in order to feed you? What comes to us when we hear that?
But because if we plant the seed and we make it grow, we're going to feed ourselves and also other people.
Okay, in which way? Let's imagine there are brothers and sisters while studying with us here. It's the first time that they listen to that and we think, well, what are you talking about seed and feed? How do we translate that?
Emotionally, psychologically,
spiritually. So it comes back for us to reflect that we are not a physical body. We are immortal beings who temporarily go through the physical body. And here, when the enlightened beings are referring to feed yourselves, they mean feed spiritually, feed morally, feed psychologically, feed emotionally, which is the essence of ourselves. As more as we practice morality, or as more as we sow the seeds as we went through, which are the virtues, or the characters of the good being, as more as we do it, more we are feeding us, soothing us from the soul level onwards. Do you want to say something, Joanne?
I was thinking because I really like the comparison he did about the morality and the seed. And then now he's asking, and now he's making us to think, what useful would be the seed if you don't use it, because afterwards you need something to feed yourself. And then the seed with all of those potentialities, if you take care of it, if you're gonna make some work on it, they're gonna become a tree, and then they're gonna give you some fruit. Is it like the law of solidarity within the kingdoms? And then now, with that thinking in mind, you can make the comparison, as you just said, with the morality. Because as the same way as if you don't have the seed, if you don't plant the seed, and then you're not going to have the fruit, and then you won't be able to be fed with the fruit, the same way works with the morality. If you don't use all the potentialities we have or we bring within, if we don't work on it, like the patience or the responsibility or all the other virtues, it's not what we won't be able to feed ourselves with those actions, and also what goodness are we bring to humanity.
And then I have a question. If I choose not to sow the seeds, therefore I will not write them, which are the elements of the real values, what will happen to me if I'm not feeding myself? Weak? In which way? Weak?
Yes, spiritually.
Spiritually, and how would that manifest in our behavior? Sufferings, afflictions, disturbances, depressions, psychosis, anxiety. What else?
Because we're not following our path, and our path is denied.
Precisely, we are not activating or stimulating the seeds, which are the real values, which are the virtues, which is the goodness that we all bring within. So if you don't choose to develop that, then our shadows will be potentialized. And as a consequence, we feel dry internally, on the essence, on the soul level almost. We feel in disturbance because we are not soothed by the major source in life, which is God.
Even it happens with me sometimes, because as I'm a very rebellious, I think that I'm not having life what it would be good for me. But what I'm aiming is a materialistic things. And I think I have asked, I just think that I have asked to don't have it, please don't give it to me. And
How do you know? How do you know?
Because of my behaviors and my belief systems.
Could we say if it's not just with you, but we will know if you are very, let's say, seeking for the materialistic aspects. Then we know that we have been there and we still want to have it, but for sure, if you carry on study, we know that we did not come to do the same again.
Yeah, the point now is how to deal with that rebellion. Because as I said before, my belief systems are based on the materialistic level.
Okay, what is the purpose of your reincarnation?
That's
spiritualized reception.
I know. I need to be talking with myself so many times.
Yes, all the time, as it happens to all of us. There is a proposal of self-love that Jesus is teaching us. Because imagine, we don't know, God knows, for how many centuries we have been on a materialistic level. Andrea Louise is helping us to understand that we come back to a new body and we keep on doing the same thing. Because we have our tendencies, our preferences, we never have time for what we really came to do. Then it's the time to go back to spiritual work, then we need to come back again. Centuries. So now it is fundamental and also clear to understand why is the need for us to keep on insisting, persisting, repeating all the time, all the day. Because the old patterns are conditioned and the new ones not. The new ones we are intellectually referring to and reflecting. But intellectual doesn't mean that it's already ingrained in our individuality. So reminding ourselves on a daily basis that is a proposal of self-love.
And what do we do with these rebellions?
Well, what is the opposite of rebelliousness?
Obedience.
Yes, obedience, and perhaps you may choose to reflect about the pathway of humbleness. Humbleness is the greatness of the soul. So we don't want to tell the Creator how I want to live my life, but I choose freely to submit myself to Him and allow Him to guide me to where He wants me. And then I will overcome my own vices, my own shadows, and understanding gradually more and more that the rebelliousness is the weakness of the soul. Although when I'm in rebellious state of mind, which is based on pride and selfishness, I may feel that I'm strong, which is a huge illusion. Sooner or later we find out that was a very big point. We become strong within when we choose to learn, to accept, and to live God's laws, which are summarized in divine love. Divine love. Is that clear?
Amazing. I remember when I arrived here and did on Sunday did a talk, a 30-minute talk about spiritual nutrition. And I have seen this talk so many times. I remember you wearing green. I think it's time for you to do it again because it was a long time ago.
Really? I can't remember when I did it.
And it helped me so much because I also had problems with matter, like Joanna, but it took me a while to understand. The first thing I understood is that matter is the instrument of the spirit. So it isn't wrong, matter. Matter, it was created by God. But the problem I had with the materialistic point of view is that the non-acceptance of the existence of the soul, which took me a while to accept that I'm not just the body. It was very difficult for me in the beginning. But I think once you accept that by studying, and then you understand the purpose of reincarnation, and you understand that matter is the instrument of the spirit, it is secondary. It doesn't matter if you have lots of money. Money is just a means, and you accept that I live in society. I have a certain way that society is organized. I have to live within the rules. I will have to pay my bills. I have to do whatever I have to do. But it is secondary because my purpose as a spirit reincarnated is to evolve. So I think when we learn to have a better relationship with matter, which was also created by God, I think it'll be easier.
Yes, it is. Let's say, through the learning, we reach different levels or different degrees of understanding. First, because we come from the matter, then it's almost like black and white. We just have the two elements, yes? And if I have this one, no, I cannot have that, I need to be fully there. So it's almost like one or another. But as more as we carry on studying and learning, we find out that the two are elements of God. God, matter, and spirit. Yes? And then we carry on studying, then we learn, I don't need to go there and that. It's the middle way, that is the balance. So I need to study, which I do through my evolution pathway, and then learn that when I come back to the material physical level where we are, it is for me to spiritualize myself in relation to the material reality. It's not running away from it. It's learning to interact in a wiser way, up to the point that let's say, they condition my old values that I bring from centuries and centuries, and I relate in a freer way in relation to matter, because the spiritual element is helping me to have a different understanding with matter, more balanced. I'm not dominating anymore. I don't need to run away from. I can relate with and yet be free within. Because as a mortal being, we all need to go through many different experiences. One of them will be, for sure, to be rich. To live in mansions, to have a lot of money. Can we imagine that? We all need to go through those experiences. So it's not wrong. It's a part of the, let's say, the methodology of learning. And as more as we develop the virtues, wiser we will be, and more we will use those resources, or I would even say the divine resources, for our own good and good for everyone.
And I think when we take care of what we have to, things just happen. Not that you don't have to make an effort, but things to happen easier. I don't know how to explain.
Internally, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like we're talking about matter and let's say jobs or whatever. I think when we take care of what we have to, and let's say looking after my spirituality and doing what I have to do, it is incredible the way things happen, because it makes it just like
the puzzle comes together without us playing part. That is very profound, and that is also part of all of ourselves developing trust in God, and it's a journey. Usually we are pretty much focused on a material level, and then we forget the spiritual element or leave it in a secondary place. But if we realize that our objective back to earth is to spiritualize ourselves, is to become better, and we focus on that sincerely, not because I have to, it is a choice, And then naturally, or somewhere, somehow things on the professional level too slow. We don't need to move any finger. That is what we learn in Spiritism. When we do our part, God does his part. Because our evolution is not alone, it's with partnership with the Creator. But first, we need to do our part. Then he gives us. Usually we want first our part, and then we complain that God is not helping us. Good point. Anything else? Otherwise,
I think when you say morality without action, it means like that it's morality without action is sterile.
Is what?
Sterile.
Oh yes, yes, yes.
That's why the religion is seen. There's no food.
Precisely. Before you arrived, we were discussing about that phrase because within morality without action is like the seed without sowing. There are three elements, which is morality, the seed, and the sowing, isn't it? And they are all interconnected. But it's true. We feel dry, not nourished. Anything else? No? So let's go through the last phrase then. Having not practiced the maxims they offer to others, they fail to harvest the fruit. How do we translate that now? How is that coming? Following the previous phrases regarding the answer to question 905. Those persons are guilty because, no, I jumped one. Oh, I'm so sorry, I go back. Those persons are guilty. I start from the beginning, it makes more sense to us and those who are listening. Morality without action is like the seed without the sowing. What use is the seed if you do not make it grow in order to feed you? Those persons are guilty because they possess the intelligence to comprehend. Having not practiced the maxims they offer to others, they fail to harvest the fruit. So now what comes to us towards the two last phrases? These persons are guilty because they possess the intelligence to comprehend. What are the enlightened spirits trying to communicate to us?
The level of responsibility is related to the level of comprehension we have about certain subjects. So if you know more what is right and what is wrong, we consciously choose not to put in practice what we already know, then obviously it will be taken into account.
And what do we understand about duty?
I would say more responsible.
Okay.
More accountable.
More accountable, more responsible. Why?
Because we know how to do right, but we don't. I
But
think
more accountable to whom, Cynthia?
Us.
To us?
Yes.
In relation to?
Gospel.
Why? I have an answer to the question. It's important to understand because those who are with us also, they may never heard about it. So if we go through in details, it helps them also. Because we have been created simple and ignorant by God and we bring his laws within. So we will be accountable with ourselves in relation to those natural laws. And because we bring the laws within, there is no judge outside us. There is no God there pointing the finger upon each one of us. It is ourselves, our own deep conscience, which will sooner or later, let's say, feel the responsibility to do differently. Is that making sense?
And the most important one is the action, because we talk a lot, we all like talk, but we don't walk the walk. We're not practicing the laws and the moral concepts.
Precisely.
You're not putting this in action.
Yes. Or evolution, or progress, or enlightenment, or advancement, it is based on the action. Because we may have, as we do, lots of information. But if we don't go on the action level, on the behavior, then we don't change our previous default patterns. And in order to go on the action level, we all are challenged on our pride, selfishness, and personal interests, that we need to shift and change our habits and values so that we move on. In that way, we are promoting ourselves as immortal beings. And that brings the autonomy back to each individual, isn't it? Clear so far? The ladies are so quiet. Any contribution? Nothing? Can we move on? Are we clear with this question? Okay, so let's move on then on the next question, 906. It says, it is reprehensible. Is it reprehensible for those who do good to be conscious of their deeds and to acknowledge them to themselves? Let's explore the question first. How do we understand this question within the chapter Moral Perfection and the subtitle Virtues and Vices? How could we express it in our own words, which could also help others to understand it? Is it reprehensible for those who do good to be conscious of their deeds and to acknowledge them to themselves? How could we frame it in a different way? Perhaps in a simple way that also helps others. Do we have 3 elements in the question? Yes or no? Is it reprehensible? Is that one aspect? How do we understand reprehensible? Is it reprehensible? Unacceptable? Or is it not right? For those who do good, to be conscious of their deeds. To be conscious. Is it important for us to be conscious of our deeds? Yes? No?
Yes, it is.
Perhaps.
For us to be conscious.
God knows. Why?
Yeah, because we have to. If we are unconscious, we are like blind.
Then we are unconscious. We are blocked. We are not seeing it precisely. And then they carry on. They're conscious of their deeds and to acknowledge them to themselves. So it's important to be conscious, and it's important to acknowledge them for us. Are there different ways of acknowledging them to us? Which are? In a humble way or in a prideful way? What is the difference for us? Let's imagine that we are acknowledging it in a humble way. What will be or are the consequences for us?
We recognize our potentialities and we work towards this in a positive way instead of like just making this a strategy to achieve our ego desires or ego.
Correct. Could we say if we acknowledge it in a humble way, we also empower ourselves to overcome the own shadows, to promote ourselves spiritually? Yeah.
How would that happen to acknowledge in a humble way? So what would be like the internal conversation?
Okay, who already exercised that?
We do the opposite. We put ourselves down. We don't realize our potentials, and we don't work in a positive way with our virtues.
So how do we put ourselves down? Give examples to help Cynthia to design the picture.
I'm not good at this.
I'm always too wrong. I'm not capable.
Yeah.
I cannot do that. That is a negative.
Yeah.
Now, the opposite. When we are humble, when we acknowledge, and when we use it to promote ourselves, examples on the practical level.
It would be the opposite, but you don't have to show this to the others. It's to yourself. You acknowledge this to yourself, and you don't have to show this.
Show off.
Yeah.
And neither to tell to others. This is merely an internal inner conversation or internal inner acknowledgement, an internal inner choice. Are you following us?
It gives you self-confidence.
Where are you?
I find it so weird.
Why are you finding it weird, Cynthia?
I was just thinking like I acknowledging something good that I did, but it's so awkward. You know?
Awkward. You know why?
I think it's better to see what I did wrong.
So you have been very good in training yourself to put yourself down. Now that you realize that, again, it sounds awkward because you are starting, as we all are, through the proposal of self-love, because we are talking about self-love, isn't it? And then sounds awkward because it still is not conditioned in our psyche. And okay, we admit it, but we don't fall back to the old. We keep on holding us in training, as awkward as it may be, up to the point that you will realize, it feels a bit better within. It feels that it's accommodated in a more soothing way. then is already the evidence that it is internalized or started to internalize. Okay?
Can we find comfortable what's familiar?
Yeah.
Even if it's not.
Precisely. Even if you talk about our vices, it's correct. So at the beginning, when we start to exercise our virtues, this is the process of all of us. We don't feel comfortable. It feels awkward. It feels unnatural. It feels mechanical. Sometimes we may even laugh about ourselves. It sounds ridiculous because we do have the two different values. What our friend just said. We got used to the way that we related to us. And now we are learning a new way, and we are not used yet. But as more as we train ourselves, we also become used to it. Everything in our psyche is habit. And habit are experiences that we repeat and repeat and repeat up to the point they also impregnate ourselves on the emotional level. So although it's awkward, the awkwardness, I would say, is a positive feedback that you notice in yourself. Why?
Is it because I'm becoming aware of it?
You become aware of yourself because previously you have been in that old system, in the old default patterns without being conscious. Now you already can see the difference and how awkward, how strange, how unnatural it is within myself. That is a certain level of awareness of it. Okay.
I think even when we see it and we withdraw from that aspect source and practice the good, it still has momentum. Even though it's not habitual now, even withdrawing from it, still the momentum is there. And people usually fall back into it because they don't realize when they become aware of it happens still. And it's subtle, so you have to do the work. Withdraw yourself.
Yes. We would say, carry on exercising consciousness and repeating self-awareness day by day. Even if you realize that you fall down, come up and carry on repeating. All the falls from centuries and centuries have been conditioned in that way. So now through self-love, doesn't matter if we still fall back, which we will, but we are aware now, and then we rescue ourselves and invest in moving forward. Okay? Anything else?
For some good exercises, it is counting what things good you did and what things bad you did. Just analyzing yourself during the day. And then on the good one, I don't know if it's right, but I do that with me. I did a good this time. Or sometimes I say, oh, that was the best way, the best time, the time that I did it the best. But it's not perfect. But was the time that I did my best and it was like okay. And then just don't put myself down and then also don't put myself like in very high levels. No, just realizing how I did and comparing myself into how I did before. And if I'm making a comparison, I can see some progress. And then I can say, oh, before I used to do this, I would put those words, and nowadays I can control myself a little bit. And then it can be like I can make this exercise, I can use this exercise for everything. My relations at work, my relations at home with my friend or with my friends, whatever, because it's in me interacting with people, whatever I am.
Okay.
It's I have noticed the kind of translation between Portuguese and English. And what's the difference? The word self-love, it's because in Portuguese they all amor próprio.
Yes, in English would be self-love or selfishness.
Selfishness.
It comes down to selfishness, o amor próprio. In Portuguese we say, só sabe olhar embaixo do próprio umbigo. I don't know, I never tried to translate that. I need to be, you don't know, but it's selfish when we hear. Did you understand, my friend? Okay, are we okay so far with the question?
Can you give us more examples of being conscious of our deeds in a humble way? You said we acknowledge ourselves in a humble way. Can you give us more examples of this?
Examples how we become conscious of our good seeds?
Yes.
Okay, more examples how we become aware of our good seeds. So we do understand the good seeds are the real values of the immortal being, the virtues. Other examples, how do we become aware of our good seeds?
When you have a little bit more patience,
when we realize any experiences with your dear children. If you look back 2 years, and then you may see or analyze situations, how you interact with them in their loving way of being. Let's put it like that. And now you analyze in the present how you interact with them if they behave similarly. If you are more conscious of your good seeds and you are exercising them, you will realize that you are interacting with them in a different way. You are responding to them in a different way. Your emotional response will be different. Is that making sense? That's one of the examples. Do we have another example? Do you have one? Not this moment. Anyone else? It's only observing in our experiences. If you look back at I try to say the different versions and different times of our existences, when we look how we behaved in certain events and then how we are behaving now. Because if we are really taking the knowledge, and as the previous question was referred, and choose to act more and more according to it, then we perceive the difference within ourselves. We're becoming more patient, we are more tolerant than in the previous version. We choose freely to be more responsible in relation to our own evolution, perhaps, or we notice that we are able to be more charitable in relation to our previous version, and understanding charity, not only giving goods, but charity in the means as Jesus is teaching us, which means more benevolent, more indulgent, and more forgiving. Is that making sense? Is that okay? Okay.
There's no space for letting things happen.
Precisely.
Without directly, without thinking.
Yeah.
We can accommodate.
The differences and difference, yes, correct, excellent. So let's move on. Let's just read the question again for us to have it clear in our minds. Is it reprehensible for those who do good to be conscious of their deeds and to acknowledge them to themselves? We explored that. So now, the enlightened beings. See the answer? I wonder why. Yeah, to me, it shows that probably we have plenty to learn. But we are in the right place as learners in the school of life as emotional beings. It's starting. Since they can be aware of the evil they do, they must be equally aware of the good in order to know if they act rightly or wrongly. How do we understand that phrase now?
Well, it's all about consciousness, being conscious of your actions, analyzing as Roland was saying, giving her a simple thing. You analyze yourself every day and see if you're doing good or bad, or it's getting better or not. Comparing and analyzing and seeing if you're achieving your aims. That's
okay. What else comes to us apart from what has been said?
I really like the answer.
Why?
Because they're showing the development of the consciousness. Because they say, if I can be aware of the bad that I do, in the same way, equally, I can be aware of the good that I do. That shows the development of the consciousness.
Okay, I have a doubt. I read here, since they can be aware of the evil they do, please explain me what means evil.
It's the bad behavior.
Can we have different understandings in our psyche? Yes, the vices such as, give me an example of evil.
Gossiping, lying.
What? Lying?
Gossip.
Gossip? Yes, gossip, lying, dishonesty. What else? So evil means or on vices or on shadows or on imperfections. Disloyalty. What else? Selfishness, pride, vanity. Yeah? Irresponsibility. So we are going through these aspects. So it's not related to hell and heaven as we see the evil, but are our own shadows, our own vices, our own habits, which we may have conditioned ourselves in the past. And now we are through a new existence, which is promoting us in developing more light within. We are changing those habits, yes? Anything else that we have to add?
The evil.
No, in relation to the phrase? When they say they must be equally aware of the good in order to know if they act rightly or wrongly. Act rightly or wrongly according to whom? Sorry?
To the laws.
To the laws? The human laws.
Yeah, laws.
God's laws, correct, because the human laws are mutable, changeable, and God's laws are immutable. So God's laws embrace human laws, but human laws, as we as human, as society, as community are evolving, we are changing our laws gradually according to the divine laws. Anything else?
I was thinking about reference because every time you speak with me, you tell me that I need to have references because when I come to the experience, I needed to have something to compare with. And now I remember the last, I think you sent the last speech about from the road, and he was saying that sometimes the man told you that he was afraid of people who are too intelligent because they might convince you of something that is completely wrong, but they might convince you that this is right. So I think if we're lacking this reference to compare what I have done that is evil and what that I have done is good, so I can strengthen the goodness in me. So if I don't have this reference, I will be like going around without consciousness.
Yes, and I could be taken as right, but is completely wrong. And if I don't, or if we don't learn to develop the virtue of discernment, and we are very intellectualized but not moralized, then we can have distorted, we have learned in a distorted way about the natural laws. And that is what we came back to do. Okay.
But the two things that came to my mind. One is the levels. I think the level of awareness is related to the level of the level of awareness that I will have to be conscious of the bad that I do be exactly the same of the level of the awareness that I will have to realize or to be conscious of the good that I do. Because they say that's must equally. And then another
Is
thing,
it?
they said okay, they must be equally aware.
Okay, but are we?
No, the level that I have to realize the good that I do, the bad that I do is going to be the same level that I will realize the good that I do. But my level of conscience is different from your level of conscience because that will be dependent on my level of awareness and the understanding and comprehension of the God's laws and how I use that. And then another thing that came to my mind is what you always say, whatever I do bad, I will bring it with me in the same level, the potentiality should do it in good. So it's related to what they just said.
Precisely. The only difference here is that the bad that I bring with me, that I already experienced that. I already involved myself in those kind of experiences. When the potentiality, the seeds are still awaiting for me to stimulate them. And that is where we quite often fail back to validate the bad habits. The bad habits, we all bring them, which are the vices or shadows on our unconscious level. If we live our lives more on the unconscious level, the probability is quite high that we are enslaved by our shadows. And we follow and carry on doing and repeating how we behaved in previous existences. What Jesus or the enlightened beings are asking us to do is to become more aware, more conscious about ourselves, notice the shadows, not identifying with them, but bringing light to them, which is learning to use our faculty of freedom according to the natural laws of life. And in that way, we are learning to condition ourselves now according to God's laws. And that becomes part of our way of being, as immortal beings, not our way of being as in the physical body. Clear so far? And then we move on. It is in weighting all their actions on the scales of God's law, especially on those of the law of justice, love, and charity, that they can tell whether their actions are good or bad, and thus approve or disapprove of them. Hence, they cannot be at fault for recognizing the fact that they have triumphed over their bad tendencies and for being satisfied for having done so, provided they do not grow vain, for that would be the fall into another wrong. What do we understand with the other part of the answer here now? How could we explain it to us?
I was thinking on the scale, but now he's bringing the scales, but the scales are based on the God's laws. So the God's law is going to be my weight, and then using that weight, I'll be able to see what good I did and what bad I did, and those are going to be based on the God's laws. It's not any base, because I can, as you said, I can realize, or I can I can acknowledge myself in a practical way, something that I did wrong, and then I can like lie to myself, tell lies to me, and then, but I won't be able to tell lies to me because I need to base my acknowledgement on God's laws.
Okay, anybody else? What comes to us? Can we still lie to ourselves?
A lot.
A lot. Yeah. How do we stop?
Practicing the humbleness.
How do we learn to be truthful, to be honest, to be sincere with ourselves? My question is in relation to good and bad. How do we know what is good and bad? Is that
I think the best mirror is the suffering. Because if you're suffering, it's because there's something wrong. The pain and the suffering.
okay?
Sorry?
But let's imagine I'm in a scale of evolution that I don't understand that. How do I then know? Can that happen? Can that happen? Yes. So how then do I know that? It is quite complex, isn't it? Because I need to study. Okay, I agree with you. And lots of it's true.
It's kind of like, the statue for justice. It's blindfolded, it's holding the scales. So it's not directing about thinking about things. It's feeling, isn't it? And feeling always reveals whether you have, feeling is your direct impulse that lets you know.
Precisely. The only problem here is, let's imagine I'm completely shut down emotionally. How do I agree? How do I advance from that point onwards? Can that happen?
Get a pen.
Okay.
That's God's laws are in our consciousness. We know when we're doing wrong.
Yes.
But we just pretend that we
Precisely. We have that in another question in the spirits book. We all, as God's laws are within ourselves, we all know, not all us here, but everyone in the world, in the universe, we all know what's wrong and right, but we just pretend because of our pride, selfishness, and personal interest. We do have the reference, but we prefer still to be with that blind over our eyes. So I keep on saying I don't know, and then come the spirits, you do know. And then as we carry on the study, we learn more, and then also we freely choose to read. Anything else that comes to us?
Do you think a psychopath who is completely disassociated knows when he's doing wrong, when he takes someone's life?
Not consciously. Sometimes you said, well, temporarily, we may, as brothers and sisters in humanity, or perhaps even ourselves in the past, we don't know our past. But when that happens, psychopaths, they usually are split within reason and emotion through the options, the choices that they took throughout their existence. And then it becomes cut off. But as we all are under God's laws and we all bring them within, there is no one who will stay in that situation forever. Sooner or later, that starts to, let's say, flush within. And when that starts, it is of great pain for the soul, but it's healthy. It's better than being completely split and touched, but it will happen. And then start all the confusions, all the conflicts, which again, is not good, it's not pleasant, but it's healthy. It already, the soul, the spirit is already awakening towards a different scale, gradually. Okay. So we're coming to the end today of our time here. And we carry on next week. And for now, we just end our meeting with our final prayer. As brothers and sisters in humanity, gathering together in this school of life, blessed by the superior beings or benefactors, brothers and sisters who loves us all, ourselves and all of those in the spirit who are with us. May we all feel the light shining upon us. May we all observe the blessings of tenderness and love which are involving us all. We are all immortal beings, children of God, learning in different ways, in different eras. Here we are in the old world from a human perspective, embracing ourselves and all of those who are from the culture in this country. May we vibrate and emanate radiations of love and goodness, embracing us as members of the universal family, created by God with love and loved by Him as we are, beings of goodness, beings of light, and beings of love, ourselves, and also those who are already coming back to earth. May Jesus, our friend and guide, who loves us all, involve us in His tenderness as we all carry on our journey of enlightenment, feeling stronger and stronger, and choosing freely to become better today than yesterday, and tomorrow better than today, giving ourselves new opportunities in the present, wherever we are and with who we are, today and always. So be it.